Greetings, magnificent souls, to the Attract Health, Build Wealth podcast, where we have open and honest discussions about ourselves. This is a place where we break down, break away, and break through codependency, allowing ourselves to attract health, build wealth, and live a peaceful life. We are tired of being sick and tired. We are tired, but we are not giving up. We know that there is something magnificent inside of us. And because we are fighting daily, hourly, and by the minute, fighting ourselves, our kids, our spouses, we have to do things differently. We have to break the cycle. We don't have a million chances. We have to be happy now. We have to find a way. So how do we do that? How is that possible? If you look around at what society is telling you, they tell you that what we're doing is impossible, yet it's happening every single day. And it's happening through the practice and love that we call awakening the magnificent soul. We are all magnificent souls, and these are our stories of healing. Today in episode 42, we are back on the last leg of the control series, which is part 7 of a 10-part series all focused on control. Here's a good one today. We are talking today about asking for help. Do you have trouble asking for help? What does that mean from a codependency standpoint? And does that have to do anything with control? But before we get into the discussion, don't forget to let me know your thoughts about this episode, any feedback you have, or anything you'd like me to cover on future podcasts at epiphanyvault.com. Remember, you can share anonymously. It is a safe place, and I would welcome the discussion. Also, I wanted to make a really cool announcement that I'm excited about. If you follow me on any of the social platforms, you probably have seen that I am offering my SoulClass for free. I'm putting the finishing touches on a new course called How to Break Down, Break Away, and Break Through Any Bad Relationship Without Feeling Helpless, Afraid, or Being Alone Forever. I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. So I'm asking my audience, would you let me know your biggest question about codependency? It could be anything, and you may think it's silly, but I assure you it is not. And all you have to do is submit your question. In exchange for your advice, I will give you free access to my soul class that's happening on Tuesday, April 28th. This course will soon sell for $297, but you'll get special access to experience the course for free when you let me know your number one question about codependency. And to submit your question, just go to the website, attracthealthbuildwealth.com, and click on Free Live Soul Class. And hurry up and get in on this. I am turning it off when all the spaces are full. So now on to a listener submission in the Epiphany Vault. I've had quite a few, and I thank everyone for writing in. And this listener did give me permission to share. He or she wishes to remain anonymous, though, so I just want to say thank you for listening to the podcast, and thank you for the entry. And here's what he or she wrote. I recently walked away from my marriage of 2.25 years with a narcissist whom I was friends with 8 years prior to us dating. The relationship started off loving and like I was his dream come true. Then we had a car accident where I got hurt, and his guilt showed up as hate towards me, and since then I wasn't able to do anything right. When I lost sight of myself from pain and gaining weight, I just never seemed enough, and all he did would criticize me. We would go out to dinner, and he wouldn't talk to me, so I printed out some questions to have topics to talk about. I thought he was supposed to be my mirror when I couldn't see myself, but it seemed like he wanted to tear me down. When I asked him to leave and filed for divorce, I started therapy to make sure I healed properly. And I thank you for helping me to see and connect how codependency can show up. Please know you're helping someone. Thank you so much for that information and for sharing that with me. And magnificent soul, I know it's been a few months since you submitted this question, but I want you to know that I hear you and I understand the pain and courage that you've experienced. And please know that you are the hero in your own life, and it sounds like you're taking those steps and you're doing the right and great things if you're thinking of yourself first. Much love. And this actually makes me think of something that happened recently to me. Someone asked me what my life mantra was, And I'd never even thought about it before. I've always felt a driving purpose, which is why I do this podcast, but I'd never thought about my mantra or a slogan for my life. And without thinking, this came out. I am worth it. I am worth it. And you, magnificent soul who wrote in, are worth it too. And everyone out there. I just wanted to say that and make sure that you know, and thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to write back in, I'd love to hear from you and how you're faring and what questions are coming up as you continue your healing process. But today, on to this huge, big topic for me. Does anyone else have trouble asking for help? Maybe thinking that you can just do things on your own, or maybe not wanting to appear weak. In some ways, I think mildly this is a human thing, at least nowadays. Remember, with codependency, we're talking about levels and scales of being out of balance. And yeah, I think in general, I think we are raised to be independent beings. We feel good when we do things on our own. And sometimes we feel good when we figure out our own way of doing things. So in some cases, I think that not asking for help is a natural thing. But here, we are talking about extremes. We talk about extremes because they throw us off balance. And codependency is a break from yourself. It is your energy into someone else or something else, and it is an extreme. I don't know if I'm pulling at straws here, but I can definitely say that previously I had a really rough time asking for help. I would take on so many commitments, either wanting to stay busy or wanting to pick up someone else's slack, and it would be hard for me to find any other solutions other than doing it on my own. Sometimes it was even hard to work with people because they didn't seem to be doing things right, or they didn't have whatever it was I was focusing on as a high priority. And come to think of it, this happened a lot when I was in my codependent relationship. Oftentimes when I would ask my codependent other to help me with something or to do something, I was pushed away or promised something that never came to fruition. So I would just do it myself. And in fact, I think I got in this mode because I had to do this so often, and that it transferred to other situations, like work is a good example. I was used to being disappointed in others, so I just shouldered the burden myself. If you're interested more in that, I would recommend the recent podcast we talked about taking others' responsibilities and how that has to do with control. But asking for help requires different emotional capacities that I guess I just didn't have at the time. Self-awareness, patience, self-love, boundaries. As I'm thinking about this, that list can go on and on. Really, all of the emotional characteristics that I didn't have at that time that asking for help requires. And I know a lot of you are thinking, and I think it too, asking for help makes me look weak or needy. And let's take a look at that real quick. Why would that be so? Why would asking for help make me look weak or needy? Could it be that I feel weak or needy because I feel that way in other areas of my life? Maybe I have been made to feel crazy or out of sorts. Maybe my insecurity is felt so deep that I do actually feel weak and needy at times. Maybe my self-love muscle is not activated and I just don't feel like it's okay to be weak. Maybe I have felt weak and needy my whole life. Which, let me just say real quick, that while feeling that may be true, this is not your fault. Likely it's just a state of being that you've been conditioned into. And for me, to think about this is like so deep and powerful, I need to just sit with it for a minute. Could it be that the outward manifestations of myself, my life, and my relationships be an actual mirror into my soul? I'm going to say that again. Could it be that my outward manifestations of myself, my life, and my relationships be an actual mirror into my soul? Could my insecurity with myself have been so great that I have felt like asking for help was a burden? That I wasn't even worth the help that people could provide? I want to stop right here and pause and say that this is just one of the top layers of the onion. What I've learned through my codependency is that as I explored its depth, it's definitely It definitely was not one-dimensional. But if we're looking at the top layer right now of asking for help, I think it's worth exploring why it would be so hard to do it. In fact, I had to do this practice on myself. If I continued to ask why with each response and ask why again until I couldn't ask why anymore, what I realized is that my resistance to asking for help was a baseline fear. It was a reflection of me not feeling worth myself. Therefore, why would anyone care enough to actually help me? Which again, I had actually experienced in real life. The initial fear did stem from not feeling worth it from the get-go. So what does this have to do with control? I'm sure you have heard, but have you ever heard of the term martyr? One of the definitions of martyr in Merriam-Webster is a great or constant sufferer. Raise his hand. Me. Martyrdom and codependency have a unique relationship. Sometimes I don't think we mean to, but we become martyrs. We do everything. We become sacrificial lambs in order to feel important, loved, or wanted. Back to the theme about asking for help, because in a way we want to be the hero and we want to be the martyr for doing it all. Why? Because much like sex, much like addiction, much like food, etc., martyrdom is like a big old well that's hard to fill, and it constantly runs dry. So my thought is that martyrdom is a controlling mechanism whereby we can shape our realities, sometimes, more oftentimes, unconsciously, however dysfunctional that reality may be. And that is our way of controlling and making sense of it. Today was a doozy, magnificent souls. Let's be kind to ourselves as we work through this. Much love, living and loving.